Our first myth today is a big one, and it came up in a conversation I had the other night. It revolves around the question of what really happened to Bob Dylan's voice that made it change so drastically when his Nashville Skyline album was released. To those unfamiliar, if you listen to the album in question, you will hardly be able to guess that it's Bob Dylan, as the voice found there is one of a deep crooner, miles away from what Bob Dylan is best known to sound like. Why and how this change occurred has been debated across the decades, but when you really dig deep into it, there are two facts outstanding that really give you as much truth as you're gonna get on this one. While in interviews around the time and since, Bob Dylan has always said it was due to the fact that he quit smoking at the time, but along with a little bit of common sense, there are two elements that refute this story and shed a little bit more light as to what is probably true. Many who had seen Bob Dylan perform before he really got big eventually came forward and said that the voice that they heard him singing with on the Nashville Skyline album was the one that they had heard years before, putting forward the idea that the vocal tone you're used to with Bob Dylan is actually vocal posturing. Adding further support to that idea, there are demo tapes known to exist that feature Bob Dylan singing in that other voice, doing a few songs that would eventually be released on Nashville Skyline. So while there's no 100% factual evidence one way or the other as to exactly why Bob Dylan's voice sounds so different on Nashville Skyline, for me, I think it's safe to argue the idea that it was a vocal choice by Bob Dylan on that record, and it's a sound he was simply able to create and wanted to do so that time around. The second myth for today came as a request, and it's the story surrounding the claim that Elvis Presley once released a live album with no actual songs on it. Not only is this true, but the record in question stands as one of the most laughably horrible incidents in all of music history. This one actually goes back to 1974 when Elvis was touring like a madman, and his manager, Colonel Tom Parker, wanted to cash in a different way. He came up with the idea of releasing a live album exclusively at shows, but the fact of the matter is, he didn't want to pay the royalties to RCA Records. So what he did is he went through all of the live tape that they had, and he basically pulled stage banter off of it. And he released all of this stage banter on the album titled Having Fun with Elvis on Stage. Of course, nobody told the fans buying the record that they weren't actually going to get any music, and it goes without saying that when these people got home, they were pretty frustrated. The record quickly became one of the biggest jokes in the music industry. Though years later, RCA actually decided to cash in on the novelty of the album, releasing it in an official manner, much to the frustration of Elvis himself. But in the end, it is true that there's an Elvis Presley live record out there that contains no music whatsoever. For our final myth today, we turn to the one and only Alice Cooper and the claim that the song he submitted to be the theme song to the James Bond film The Man with the Golden Gun was completely rejected by producers. This story has persisted for years due to the fact that there's a song called The Man with the Golden Gun on Alice Cooper's 1973 album Muscle of Love. But in the end, this story is false, though it takes a little bit to understand why. As is the case with most films, the producers of this movie decided to tap a number of different musicians to offer up a possible theme song for the movie, and Alice Cooper was one of them. At the time, Cooper and his band were already working in the studio, they agreed to it, and they set to work on the song, which apparently took a very long time to complete. When the song was finally done and it was passed back to the movie's producers, they were told it was not going to be used. But it wasn't because of quality or content, it was something far more simple. The fact of the matter is, by the time Alice Cooper and his band had finished this song, the producers had already agreed to use a song by the singer Lulu, and her song, also titled The Man with the Golden Gun, would eventually become the film's rather tepid theme song. So no, it wasn't some musical snobbery or some big rejection. The band was just too late to have the song considered. It's that simple. So those are the myths for today. Be sure to check back here every Thursday as I delve into some of the coolest stories in music history, and be here every day for all the music news, reviews, and knowledge you'll ever need.